Good morning. It's Sunday, October the 11th, and Miss Lana here to do your all Sunday school lesson this morning. Hope you guys have had a good week, a good fall break week. I think my kids have had a good week. They got to go do some things outside, which was good. So I'm thankful that we've had a good week with weather, although it's been a little rainy yesterday. And maybe this morning I'm trying to look out the window, and it looks like it's maybe been a little rainy this morning too. So I'm so glad to be here this morning to do our lesson. We have a really good lesson this week. The title of our lesson this week is Show Love. And I think, again, this is a good lesson this week. So if you guys want to join in reading the scriptures or follow along, we're going to be in the book of John, which again is one of the Gospels. So we'll be in the first little bit of the New Testament. So we're actually going to be in John chapter 13. And our lesson is scriptures number 1 through 17. So we're going to go over that in just a few moments. Anytime we can talk about love, I think it's important. Jesus is the ultimate love. I think the last few weeks for the scriptures we've had, they've all kind of stemmed about love in some way, because we've talked about lots of things that Jesus had done during Bible times to show his disciples and also followers how much he loved them. So today's no different. This is a really good lesson, and I like it. Again, doing things in Bible times differently than we might do them today. But again, we'll talk about that. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead first and just read our scriptures, and then we'll talk a little bit about those, and we'll ask some questions. Let's get started. Again, if you want to follow along, if not, it's okay. Miss Lana will just read and you can listen. The title above the scriptures in my Bible actually say Jesus washes his disciples' feet. So just as a reminder, you guys remember that the disciples are Jesus's helpers. He's their friends. He is trying to teach his disciples throughout his walk on earth. He's trying to teach them how to be able to continue teaching and preaching about him after Jesus actually does go to heaven. Let's go ahead. Again, I'll go ahead and get started. It says, "Now before the feast of the Passover, when Jesus knew that his hour was come, that he should depart out of this world unto the Father, having loved his own which were in the world, he loved them unto the end." So something important for you guys to kind of note about this is that Jesus knew that he was going to have to die and go to heaven. Now, the disciples weren't really on the same page as far as understanding that. So Jesus knew that, they were going to crucify him and that he would have to die. And I can't even imagine how he felt just knowing that. I mean, we all know that something's going to happen one day, that we're not all going to live forever. But we think about growing old and living a long, long, long time, and we don't ever know what's going to happen. But Jesus knew, and I can't imagine how he felt just knowing, okay, well, my days are limited, and I know that I am going to die. And it's going to be pretty soon. So again, he's trying to teach as many lessons as he can to his disciples before that actually happens. It says, "And supper being ended, the devil having now put into the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, to betray him." So as far as what that scripture means is that out of the 12 disciples, there was one disciple named Judas, and he betrayed Jesus. He turned his back on Jesus, which was not good. It was really bad. But Jesus knew that he was going to do that. I do believe. So even though it was very hard for him, that was just something, because we know Jesus knows everything, right? So Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things unto his hands, and that he was come from God and went to God, he riseth from supper and laid aside his garments and took a towel and girded himself. After that he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel wherewith he was girded. Then cometh he to Simon Peter, and Peter saith unto him, Lord, dost thou wash my feet? Jesus answered and said unto him, and this is in red because this is Jesus speaking. It says, What I do thou knowest not now, but thou shalt know hereafter. Peter saith unto him, Thou shalt never wash my feet. Jesus answered him, again in red, If I wash thee not, thou hast no part with me. Simon Peter saith unto him, Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head. Jesus saith unto him, He that is washed needeth not save to wash his feet, but is clean every whit. And ye are clean, but not all. For he knew who shall betray him. Therefore said he, Ye are not all clean. So after he had washed their feet, and had taken his garments, and was set down again, he said unto them, Know ye what I have done to you? Ye call me Master and Lord, and ye say, Well, for so I am. And this is all in red. It says, If I then, your Lord and Master, have washed your feet, ye also ought to wash one another's feet. For I have given you an example, that ye shall do as I have done to you. Verily, verily, I say unto you, the servant is not greater than his Lord, neither he that is sent greater than he that sent him. If ye know these things, happy are ye if ye do them. So, a couple of things about those last scriptures there. He's really trying to show his disciples that, this is something he's doing because he loves them. Okay, my book actually had some really good information that I wanted to kind of throw in there to share with you guys. So again, this, when it refers to the feast or the evening meal, I think it says in the Bible, we don't really know if that was actually eaten before the Passover feast, or if that actually was the Passover feast. But we do know this was right before Jesus was going to be crucified. Okay. So understand that washing somebody's feet was what is called my book calls it a menial task. Menial. That word means kind of it's something that normally a priest or someone that's of higher authority would not do. Okay, so it's kind of a task that's kind of above somebody doing. So, for Jesus, being who he was to everyone, to get down and wash people's feet, that was really big. Okay. So a good example that my book said was like washing feet was like untying sandals. And even in the book of John, it talks about John the Baptist saying he was not fit to untie Jesus's sandals, meaning he wasn't good enough to do that. And, that's just a good example, right? So, okay. So let's talk a little bit about showing love, and then we'll talk a little bit more about our lesson. It says, so sharing time, I thought these were pretty good. Again, of course, we usually go over these. Who do you love? So I guess you guys probably could list at least this long of people that you love. thinking about your family, your parents, your sisters, your brothers, your grandparents, aunts, uncles, everybody that you love so much. And then, of course, outside of your immediate family, I know you have friends that you love, and you probably love we should love our church and our church family. You may love your teacher at school, or you may love people, and that's okay. It's perfectly fine. We should love everybody, right? So again, if you guys had to start naming a list, I'm sure it would be very long. Okay. And then how do you show love to them? So I think this is really a good question, because here's the thing to understand about our lesson. When you go to like a store and you're going to buy a card, or maybe you've bought a gift and you're going to buy a gift bag to put a gift in, you normally can find those things anywhere. You don't normally see like a bowl to wash feet, or soap or washcloths and things like that, because that's not really how we show people that we love them in these days, like Jesus was using the example in Bible times. We show people we love them by giving them cards and gifts and hugs and kisses and just telling them that we love them. With technology, we can send them a message, a text. We can do a little video and send it to them. There's all kinds of ways to show people that we love them, right? But I thought that was a really good example, because again, we don't, that's not typically what you do in our days like Jesus was doing in our story today. Okay. And then who loves you? Again, that big long list we talked about of people that you love. I can promise you that you all are on those folks' same list. Okay, so you're loved by your parents and your grandparents and your family and your church family, and by Miss Lana, because I love you all very much. So, and then how do they show love to you? So, again, I think this kind of goes along with the lesson on how do you show love to others. But your parents and your grandparents and people, they show love to you by spending time with you. It's not about gifts and things like that, but they may send you a card and a gift on your birthday, or do something special for you, take you somewhere special, just out of kindness to show how much they love you. It's again not about those things, but they use those things sometimes to make sure that you know how much they care about you, right? Something very important that I think that you can do to show someone that you love them is to pray for them. If you love your family and your friends, we should pray for them. We should pray for each other, right? And we should do things to show each other that we love them. It's so easy for us to just assume that somebody knows we care about them, or to just care about them and not really ever do anything special to show them. But it's always good to do something, and even if it's something just really small, to show somebody that we care about them. And that just may mean like sending them a card out of the blue, or stopping by and visiting. And of course, I know everything's different right now with quarantine and COVID and staying home and having to be away from folks. But it's always a good idea to try to think of something special to do for somebody, to let them know we love them. Okay. So, but again, back to our story, just making sure you guys understand that Jesus washed his disciples' feet, and he did this to show them that he loved them. And basically he's telling them that you do not understand why I'm doing this now, but soon you will. And Jesus what he meant by that was, I'm going to die on the cross, and I'm going to have to go to heaven and leave you all behind here on earth to continue all the good work. And they didn't understand that. But Jesus already knew that. And so again, that's why he says, And I'm trying to find the scripture, so give me just a second to look back. But it says in 7, Jesus answered and said unto him, What I do thou knowest not now, but thou shalt know hereafter. So he's telling them, I know what's going on, and soon you guys will too. Okay, so something else I wanted to point out before we answer our questions. So one of the disciples had a really hard time with this. It was Peter. And so the reason is because Peter thought about Jesus being so much more important than he was himself. He just couldn't understand why in the world Jesus wanted him to wash his feet. That's just, again, seemed like something that, that he couldn't understand why Jesus was wanting to wash his feet. I apologize. Because, he was like, I should be washing your feet, Jesus. You are so much more important than I am. He just really struggled with it. And again, Jesus was just trying to show him, we're all equal. I love you all, wanting to do this for you. And so Peter was like, okay, well, are you going to wash my hands? Are you going to wash my head? Are we going to wash everything? And Jesus was like, no, I'm just going to wash your feet. And just, again, I know why I'm doing this, and someday you're going to understand too. But he had a little bit of a hard time with it. So I think this is all good, a good lesson. I have a couple of things written in my Bible from notes that I'd taken, because we've had this lesson during preaching services before. And a couple things I had wrote down. Jesus was trying to show Peter that he had to get low to serve God. And so Peter would, thinking about, my book says that these chairs that they were in for their feast reclined. So think about laying back, and he was able to have access to their feet. And I know that sounds a little strange to us, because we don't normally sit in reclining chairs to eat unless you're literally like in the living room in your recliner. But he had access to their feet. So, Peter, it was showing Peter that Jesus was down low washing his feet. And how do we have to get sometimes? We have to get down on our hands and knees and pray and ask God to forgive us. And it's even so much more than that. That's the literal way that we get down and serve Jesus and God. But being humble means we have to lower ourselves and not think so much of ourselves, and get down on a very low level, and to where we can pray to God and let him know that we have to have him to be able to do the right things and to live our lives and to love other people like he wants us to. And then the other thing is, I noticed is that in verse 4 it says, he rises from supper and laid aside his garments and took a towel and girded himself. After that he poureth water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet. It says, I wrote that Jesus prepared himself. He made himself just as a servant, and not the priest that others had seen him. So Jesus could have very easily said, somebody go get me a basin of water and some soap and a towel, and they would have just done it like that, because they all knew how important Jesus was. But he did it himself to show them that, I can do this, and I think that was it's a very good lesson, Jesus showing them how much he loved them to do it himself for them. Okay. All right. 2 other verses that go along with our verse, if you are following along. It's in the same chapter. We would just skip over, and it is verse 34 and 35. It says, and this is all in red. Again, Jesus is speaking this. It says, a new commandment I give unto you, that ye love one another as